Hi, Francesca, Raffa here. So I just came back from a 6-day deep training with ISTA, the International School of Temple Arts. And to say the least, it was very intense and beautiful and like a homecoming in so many ways, like in this portal for over 6 days that was pulsing with aliveness and erotic life force energy. And I chose to enter into this training because October for me was a month of deeper devotion, and I wanted to really dive deep into shadow work at some of the things that I could feel I was avoiding, right? Like when we know we are avoiding facing something deeper. So within the first few days of this training, with the beautiful practices, very deep practices that we were moving through, I very quickly saw a couple of themes and shadows arising. And it was almost like the minute I saw them and I acknowledged them and owned them, I was able to work with them, alchemize them, and shift it in that moment. So a couple of things that came up for me was how much I was dismissing myself, and also this big fear of rejection, how actually the two are quite linked from what I noticed. So why do we dismiss ourselves? Think about this for a moment. What I realized was I dismissed myself because it felt safer to dismiss my truth and dismiss truly like who I was, right? And my journey and everything. And today I really want to speak into that dismissal part and the journey of remembering our voice and remembering who we are and remembering to speak from this place of truth and experience that we all hold. So let's name the pattern for a moment. Dismissal. Many of us learned early on that being expressive, being emotional, or being different could lead to rejection. This is where the two were linking for me. My big fear of rejection resulted in self-dismissal. So internalizing that lesson around learning early on that being expressive, emotional, different could lead to rejection, the lesson is, or what's been internalized is, if I silence myself first, maybe I'll be safe. If I become the observer and the witness, maybe I'll be safe. So then dismissal becomes this quiet habit, and it's not from a lack of worth, but it's from protection. But what I was realizing and noticing that what feels safe, dismissing myself of what felt safe, wasn't actually true, wasn't actually what I was wanting to share, to impact, and to bring to the space, and what I know that I could bring to the space. So it was just showing up. This dismissal part was showing up in the most subtlest ways, and yet it was still there. So the ways that it shows up is by minimizing what you feel. So that can look like you may be feeling something and then kind of brushing it off, going, it's not that important. I'm not that important, is what you're really telling yourself in those moments. Like you're telling yourself that what you feel and think and perceive and see is not that important. Another way that dismissal shows up is by softening your words or laughing them off to make them easier or more digestible for others, to make other people more comfortable within your presence. It's almost like you're waiting for permission before speaking or acting. And these are very small, everyday ways that we dismiss our truth. So what I started noticing was to shift this from recognizing the dismissal, I began to enter into deeper devotion. So what does that look like? The shift from dismissing self to then devoting to self. It comes with a very simple part, which is it's the moment we start listening again. Even if we're listening to the voice that's saying, hey, you're dismissing me here. So we start listening again to the body, to the breath, to the subtle yes or no inside. Something begins to change. The contraction unwinds. And the younger part of us that once braced for rejection can finally exhale. See, alchemy happens when we meet what's arising with play, patience, and presence. When I was recognizing those deeper shadow parts of the self-dismissal, of speaking in third person, in speaking from larger perspective and not from the I am, I was dismissing my truth and my feelings. And so in the presence of recognizing this and acknowledging it, I began to play in this realm. I began to play in, okay, what if I tune deeper into what I'm feeling right now and express this? And tending to those parts, that the little parts of self that were afraid to be rejected, or afraid to cause tension, or afraid to create uncomfortability. When we start to play within our own boundaries and own realms of the shadow, energy moves. And it reminds us that healing doesn't have to be heavy. So the minute I recognized this pattern of dismissal, owned it, acknowledged it, began to play with it and move as it and dance as it, I was able to radiate more of my magnetism, bring even more of my self and energy to the space, right? And this is the liberation. This is the liberation. So the invitation, if this is resonating for you in recognizing how you dismiss your own truth, is to notice when you are dismissing your own truth, to notice when you're not speaking from your perspective or what you're actually seeing, and choose to gently honor it instead. And taking a moment to tune in, maybe closing the eyes, placing a hand on the heart. What truth or expression have you been silencing? And then you can write that reflection in a journal, or set one small action today that says, my voice matters, my experience matters, my existence matters. And then let pleasure, play, and patience guide the process. And if you're ready to begin, you can download my free Farewell to Fear ebook. It's your first step to transforming fear into empowerment, into acknowledging what some of the fears are that hold you back, that limit you. And we start to dissect them so they become less scary, so they become less your controller or less at the forefront of your life, and more of a relationship that you start to build with these parts of yourself, so that you are still getting to show up in your truth, and so that you can still move from a place of your voice is not too much, it's medicine. And when you're ready to go deeper, there is an exploration of the way of the sacred feminine, my online course, and in a one-to-one container with myself, for spaces where you can return home to your truth, because once again, your truth matters.